Hello, ladies and gents. Romie Mojo here. Please like, comment, subscribe. Parts 3 and 4. I think I'm actually going to split it up this time because part 3 brought us someone who I really truly felt bad for. Her name was Anita. Again, please like, comment, subscribe. So Anita, she was the hairstylist of R. Kelly and in the early 2000s. And she originally, that's all it started as. This was someone who came from an abusive relationship, marriage. Her husband was abusive. She actually has 3 children and she just wanted to provide for her children. She ended up making only like $100 per, I guess, styling. And it went pretty quickly. At the end of it, she only had like $20 after she paid for babysitter, transportation, and whatnot. But she felt good because clearly this is also someone who in her family and household, she was not treated with respect. And that's what I'm going to say, because based on what she was telling us about herself, her family, whether they looked down on her or maybe just didn't hold her in higher regard than they should just because she was their family member, once she started to style R. Kelly's hair, then people started to treat her differently. Thankfully, she was able to gain a nice clientele due to that. Now, unfortunately, this is where things go south like they normally do at some point, because I was wondering, where are we going with this? This is going a little too smoothly, even though she looks so hurt and devastated. She wasn't an aspiring singer. She wasn't an aspiring actor. She wasn't there to be a groupie, or she wasn't a groupie. She was just thankful that this person who she talked to really built up her self-esteem, someone who seemed to care about her, someone who seemed to care about her family, someone who actually helped her get out of her abusive relationship. So she had a lot of respect for this person. When she was working for him as well, there were family members, because this was around the time that charges and allegations and all of that were out and new ones were coming out. She actually talked to him about it, and he said that he respected her so much because, you know, R. Kelly's big thing about loyalty. He respected her so much for actually going and telling her what it was versus just talking behind her back. And she just felt so good about it. Again, he's been doing all these things to boost her self-confidence and to really build her up, to really make her feel like she was seen and heard, especially by someone who had all of these people who wanted to be around him. All these girls wanted to be around him, but she was the one that was actually directly interacting with him, talking to him. Things went left when there was a time he wanted a head massage. And I said, uh-oh. And she thought, oh, she doesn't give massages. I'm thinking, oh, Anita. No, he wanted his little ding-ding down there to be massaged. And of course, she wasn't down with that. She was shocked because their relationship was never unprofessional to that point. And just like what we've been constantly hearing with him and how things go left, she said no, but he actually tried to force something to happen. She never actually did the act of giving him head, but his ding dong was already out. I'm only using these terminologies because YouTube gets really weird when it comes to algorithms and stuff nowadays, but was already out. He was excited about trying to do whatever it is that she didn't want to do. And she actually even covered her face and everything, but it didn't matter because he still ejaculated. She went into the bathroom. She didn't even know that he did that until she was trying to get herself together. And she just felt so devastated and so defeated because it was like, here's this man who people were telling her that, hey, you need to watch out for him. Prime example. And I thought I did not expect this. Apparently Michelle Williams was down there one time recording. I'm trying to think, when did Destiny's Child work with R. Kelly, even though it was still R. Kelly. So everyone was still, not everyone, a lot of people were still working with him even after the allegations initially dropped. And Michelle Williams was saying, hey, how old are you? And Anita took out, she said she was 24. She actually had children, and she took out her ID. And Anita was talking about how she was so proud of the fact that people were trying to say that R. Kelly goes and messes around with little girls. And yeah, Anita looks young, but Anita is an adult. So it's almost like a haha. See, it's a misunderstanding essentially. Oh, I felt so bad for Anita. So then Anita, she wanted her family to go and defend her. I guess defend her the way that maybe they didn't defend her when she was in the abusive relationship with her husband. So she asked her brother, and I think asked the cousin, hey, go and beat him up. And they both said no. They both said you need to call the cops because R. Kelly's powerful. Beating him up, 1, we won't be able to do that. 2, that's not going to change much of anything. I'm thinking, even though they're technically right, this woman has not been championed by her family. So it's like one of those things. I asked you for just one thing. But anyway, she ends up getting an initial legal representation. And then she eventually talked to, who was it? Susan G. Komen? Whatever her name is. And you know who I'm talking about. Ooh. We learned in parts 1 and 2 that she was the one that was handling a lot of the NDA non-disclosure agreements. Eventually, Nia did talk to her, and there was talks of, and as Nia talked to more and more legal representation, more people started to ask her about doing a settlement. Anita just wanted justice. She wanted him to admit that he wronged her, especially someone who she thought that she could trust, wronged her. And that's all that she really wanted. And she never got that. Instead, she eventually got down to an NDA. Now, before that, the cops were involved, and she did go and deal with having them do a raid. Now, originally, when they were there, they couldn't find her bag that had all of her hairstyling equipment and products. Thankfully, the agent who really was on her side was like, hey, I need something in here that I can prove that you were in here, because his people are saying that, oh, they didn't know Anita, whatever her last name was. And thankfully, she remembered that there was some pill bottles by his Grammys, and she said exactly where it was. And so because she was able to prove that, then they were able to move forward. But at the end of the day, there really wasn't justice for Anita. So what Anita did was she became empowered again. The documentary came out, and she thought to herself, now is the present time, because it was Kimberly who was doing the press conference saying, hey, you need to come forward, And thankfully she did. And even though I believe the other women, Anita, I just felt really, really, really bad for. Really, really bad for. I think that she was a good person to have, because they focused on her for a long time. They only didn't focus on other people for that long. They focused on her for a long time. Another person was Geronda, we already saw. Geronda was actually the woman on The Real, as well as she was on the first season of this series, talking about her experience. She was the one who, as you saw through photos and videos, she was an obsessed R. Kelly fan. Obsessed R. Kelly fan. And you can tell that she still kind of moves around like, But we hear more of her story, and it's another one where it's so sad. She was another person where she said she did not feel love from her mother. She did not feel love from her mother, from her, and even something as simple as R. Kelly saying, hey, you want something to eat? I said, huh? And she said her mother, as far as she can remember, never asked her, do you want something to eat? Are you hungry? I'm thinking, what type of mother, like what? What are we doing here? And this is an example of someone who came from a household where she wasn't getting certain love that she needed or should or deserved, and then she found it elsewhere. And that's why at the end of the day, it's almost like you can understand how someone like that can get caught up. But she was upset because this wasn't just about her story and her experience with her household and R. Kelly and the abuse that she had suffered, and him wanting to go and have her write something disparaging so that he could use it against her. She talked about a suicide pact. Yes, she was one of those people that R. Kelly said prove her love for him, and signed a suicide pact, saying that if he was ever arrested or essentially taken down, that she would go and kill herself. There were the pills. There you go. That's your job. Do it. I'm thinking, what type of... But I mean, we've seen so much from this man that expect nothing less. Expect nothing less. And they do also talk about how he constantly, with a lot of the women, discussed his own issues of molestation and abuse. And a lot of the women that he talked to were actually molested and abused in their households, or even maybe presently, which explains why it was normal behavior. And someone who was at least saying that they loved them and treated them a little bit better than the other abusers had so much power over them. But yeah, Geronda, this is when we introduced how Geronda was friends with Dominique, if I'm not mistaken, and how Dominique loved R. Kelly. Loved R. Kelly. And so Geronda, she felt a certain way, like aside from the breaking her NDA that she signed, lawsuits and all of that against R. Kelly, she was concerned for her friend. And she wanted to make it clear that she did not just offer up her friend to R. Kelly, because that's what a lot of people feel. And some people always feel that way. But we see Dominique. Oh yeah, we see her. So stay tuned for part 4, which should be coming up next. Remember, please like, comment, subscribe. I will be finishing out this season because it concludes actually tonight.